from my perspective, I started out working in a nursing home. And I always tell people when you start out at end of life, you know exactly what you don't want. And so anything that can actually increase lifespan, but along with health span, sign me up. I'm interested.
Ever hear of peptide bioregulators? These tiny molecules are making big waves in health and longevity circles. But what exactly are they, and could they be the key to unlocking your body's full potential? To answer these questions and more, we're joined by Kimberly Verbeke, a naturopathic practitioner and founder of Avita Wellness and Aesthetics. Kimberly's on a mission to empower people to reclaim their health through personalized, cutting-edge strategies. We'll explore how peptide bioregulators might revolutionize your approach to aging, fitness, and overall well-being. From their role in cellular function to their potential in preventing age-related diseases, we're covering it all. Kimberly will guide us through the benefits and considerations, sharing insights from her clinical experience and the latest research in the field. This is your chance to learn about a powerful tool in the world of personalized medicine and longevity. Prepare for a deep dive into peptide bioregulators that could change the way you think about wellness and aging. Hey, good afternoon, Kimberly. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you about this.
Yeah, and I kind of call peptides, or I've heard them referred to as, the building blocks of life. But for our listeners' benefit, can you sort of break down exactly what they are and why they're so important?
Sure. So, the easiest way to kind of get a picture in your head, we have proteins that are long chains of amino acids. We have peptides, think collagen, or think things people are very familiar with, like BPC 157, CJC, epamaurylin, a lot of those. Those are shorter chains of amino acids. And then we have peptide bioregulators that are extremely short chains of amino acids, and something that most people aren't familiar with.
Yeah, like me, right? When I started diving into this world, I heard athletes on podcasts talking about it, and I'm like, okay, do I need these? Then I started to kind of go down, the rabbit hole, and it's like they've been in medicines for like a century almost, right? Sometimes they're oral supplements, skin, hair care products, benefits like anti-aging, muscle growth, fat loss. Why do you think we're hearing about them so much right now?
I would have to say, I think because they work so well and they're very safe. I mean, that's a kind of a twofer, right? So I think that's kind of the magic, is that people get really good results, and they're just generally very, very safe to use. They're amino acids, and most people do fine with them. If you're eating protein, you can probably handle amino acids. I think they've really gained a lot of popularity. We've had some things happen in the last year and a half or so with the FDA pulling some of them off the market. I have my opinion about that. I'm hoping we're going to get them back with some changes coming. To me, anytime you can help someone heal in a way that doesn't harm them and actually addresses the root cause, I mean, that's the magic, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's what you hear a lot lately is root cause, and why are we just looking at the surface and not getting deep down into what is really triggering these issues in people? I wondered, though, could you sort of take us on like a peptide journey through the body, like how the sort of molecules maybe work their magic from the moment they're introduced?
Yeah, so the peptide bioregulators are the thing I think is so fun to talk about, because most people have never heard about them. They were kind of discovered, I guess is the right word, by Dr. Kavinson in Russia. He was tasked with helping the cosmonauts recover and deal with radiation exposure and issues that they had, long-term issues they were having. And in his work, he discovered these, what he called peptide bioregulators, right? So they're either 2, 3, or 4 amino acids strung together. They're tiny. Why does that matter? Because they're small enough they can pass through the nuclear and cellular membrane and attach right to the DNA. So our bodies have this innate intelligence. They know where they need to go. They know which, those amino acids that are strung together, hey, these 3 affect the kidneys. These 3 affect the liver. Like, the body's just innately intelligent, and it takes them where they're needed. Dr. Kavinson in Russia studied these bioregulators clinically for over 40 years. So some of the most meaningful things I heard him say in lecture were, I've used them on hundreds of thousands of patients and never had an adverse event. That's huge.
Yeah.
He also described them as retreading the tires, right? So I learned about these peptide bioregulators from Dr. Bill Lawrence, who is a PhD doc here in the U.S. that has studied them and is doing some research with them. He found Dr. Kavinson's work, and his story is really interesting. He was raised Mormon, and the Mormons keep pretty detailed records on longevity and things like that. There were no men in his family that made it past their mid-60s. There was just not longevity in his family. He was an attorney, decided to go back to school, decided he was going to study something that benefited him, that being longevity.
Yeah.
And so he has a really cool perspective because as an attorney, he is very, very evidence-based, very science-based. He's like, I want proof. And he learned about Dr. Kavinson, but he went over multiple times and studied with him, learned from him over in St. Petersburg. Fast forward, 15-ish years, Dr. Lawrence is now in his late 70s, and he looks healthy and spunky and, wow, right? These peptide bioregulators, I heard Dr. Lawrence say, they go in and repair our repair systems. When we're young, our metabolic rate is here and disease is here. And as we age, those two things shift. So our ability to keep up and fix things as they break down, that slows down. These peptide bioregulators help to repair those systems. And what they've found through clinical research is when you put somebody on these bioregulators, on an average per year, they saw about a 7-year decrease in people's biological age. And this is through clinical testing of DNA methylation, telomere length, things like that. When they put people on them for 2 to 3 years and then did not put them on them again, they saw about, on average, a 15-year increase in lifespan. And these people were healthier. And you have to think, they're testing people that are in he talked about, Dr. Kavinson talked about doing tests on people up in Siberia that were working in the oil industry. I mean, that's not an easy life.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
I've never researched it, but I would expect that they don't have as long of a life expectancy. I mean, there's just certain, fields of work that typically people don't have as long of a lifespan. And so some of the research that they found has just been incredibly meaningful. And I think from my perspective, I started out working in a nursing home. And I always tell people when you start out at end of life, you know exactly what you don't want. And so anything that can actually increase lifespan, but along with health span, sign me up. I'm interested because I'm not interested in being spoon-fed or having my diaper changed or, it's just not the life I want. I want to be healthy. And if I can't be healthy, then I want to be out. And so it's, finding these really cool ways that are completely natural to help our body heal and stay healthy. It's pretty significant. So these bioregulators are able to go in and they know right where, they're like a little heat-seeking missile, right? They know right where they need to go and they go there.
So what's the way they're administered to people?
Typically orally. They are available in an injection, but that's not real common.
So the oral is more effective in your experience?
From what I've studied about them, the oral take a little bit longer to see the changes, but they really manifest these long changes. Some of the use that they've done with the injectable ones is if somebody's having a very acute issue, you can give them injections and they'll, see a quicker response. But the ones I use in my longevity protocol with people are all oral.
Because I always see, skin, hair,
Hmm.
nail products, right? Like, and you obviously are touching a lot upon like longevity, right? Are there other like maybe health concerns that these molecules can address that maybe would surprise people?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen really amazing changes in people that are having issues with specific organs. They're very specific. So there are bioregulators for the liver, kidney, heart, the thymus, the pineal gland, ovaries, testes, retina, brain. So you're very specifically looking at areas that you need to work on. So for example, when I do my longevity protocol, I do a true diagnostic test at the beginning and the end of the year. So I'll start off with having a consult with the person, getting a clinical presentation. Hey, what are things you've struggled with throughout your life? Oh, you've had a lot of adrenal issues or a lot of thyroid issues through your life. So maybe we want to pulse those peptide bioregulators a little more often throughout the year. And then I will also get that data from the True Diagnostic test, and I will put those both together to figure out the best plan for that person.
Okay, yeah. I was under the impression that our bodies would naturally produce these peptides, but declines with age. If true, how
Certain
does like certain peptides? Okay, so like if there's a peptide deficit impacting our health, is there a
peptides.
certain age where we typically start to see the effects of this deficit?
I would have to say, I mean, like I'm wildly seeing people in their 30s that are having all sorts of endocrine issues. You get your one-offs like people that have just had, kidney issues their whole life or something like that. But I think there's so much toxicity that we're now dealing with in our environment. People they're breaking down younger and younger, right?
Yeah, they are.
So, we're really magical at keeping people alive for a long time in our country, but with really poor quality of life. So, when I'm looking at someone that's 40 and they're like, I just don't feel good. I have no energy, no stamina, no libido, can't maintain muscle mass. Like, that's not normal. 40 is not old. 50 is
No,
not
I
old,
hope not. Right? Yeah.
And so I think, really kind of looking at the person, obviously genetics come into play. I mean, if you've treated your body like a garbage can since you were in college, you're probably not going to feel great.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's lots of factors at play, but I would say 40s and 50s tend to be really when people are like, whoa, I don't feel good. This isn't cool.
hmm Yeah. It is strange where, you have someone that lives to be 100 in this country and it's like a miracle. You're like, what? It's a shame that that's the case, but it is true that, like you said, it's happening younger and younger with people that you're starting to see all sorts of issues happening that we didn't see decades ago, not even that long ago. We're just seeing much more prevalent at this point. When I talk to people about peptides, I've gotten some people that have said to me, like, is that like steroids? What sort of like, myths have you had to debunk about peptides when you talk to people about using them and how they can benefit them?
I think generally people just don't understand what they are, right? They're amino acids, period. Steroids is kind of a broad word. I think it's kind of like when I was a kid, that was kind of what people like dudes at the gym were on steroids.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, exactly. All the guys that were ripped. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, now it's kind of going, no, no, no. Like, those sometimes they're hormones, sometimes they are steroids. There's multiple things that people can use to affect their abilities or to give themselves an edge in their sport, things like that. It's always an interesting conversation. I think even performance enhancing drugs, I feel like are really misunderstood.
hmm Yeah.
This is not, I'm for or against them. I just think people don't understand what they are,
Yep. Yeah.
you know?
I mean, in our country, we always hear about, oh, this is banned in America. So the athlete had to go to Germany to get
Yeah.
whatever blood platelet, this, right? You start to
Yeah.
hear these things. So you just automatically think, oh, if they don't allow it here, it's bad. But it's helping these people. So, but I don't think anyone goes beyond that. It's just, oh, it must be bad because they don't
No,
do it here.
exactly. So I've been into sports and lifting weights and endurance sports for a very long time. I even wrote a paper on performance enhancing drugs when I was in school. because I was interested in it, because I realized that people thought it makes you like superhuman. And what people don't understand is it just gives you an edge. You still have to do all that hard work. And also, everybody in the sport's probably doing it, or they wouldn't be in that sport at
Right.
that level.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Exactly. How do you get there and maintain that level
yeah.
as you age, right? And just the wear on your body from playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, I remember when everything happened with Lance Armstrong and, he was so demonized and, did he handle the situation the way he should have? No, but the truth of the matter is, if you know anything about that sport, you understand that the gap from the winners to the people at the very back those margins are so slim. Everyone's doing something, in my opinion. Let them do their thing. I mean, it is what it is. I think once you're an adult, you understand there are risks associated with certain things, and there are also benefits associated with certain things. I'm a little more of a live and let live person now. Like, they're adults, let them make
Yeah.
their own choice.
It's their body, they know.
Yeah. Kind of a side note, I don't very often get asked if they're steroids. It's more that people just don't really know what they are or understand how they work, right? They're like, well, is it something like made in a farm? They think it's like this chemical made up structure. And I'm like, no, it's just amino acids strung together. Like the peptide bioregulators Dr. Cavinson discovered and studied are literally, they get them from 12-month-old calves.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, and I've heard about supplements too, peptide supplements to help with various ailments.
Mhm.
Are they effective for certain issues more so than others? Or, I mean, what's your sort of opinion on these, peptide supplements?
I think a lot of them are great. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to do your due diligence. Everything is not created equal, but in general, do I love them? Yeah, because I think that, again, so if you look kind of at American culture, the last several years, meat has really been demonized.
Mm-hmm.
And our bodies cannot repair or heal without an amino acid reserve. So when you start looking at these people that are eating vegan or vegetarian and don't understand the long-term repercussions of that, I always tell people, I have zero emotional attachment to your diet. None.
Sure. Right.
Right? Because
Yeah.
do you get it? People are so emotional about their diet and they treat it like it's a religion. And I'm like, for the love of God, like, move on. This does not serve you. And they can't, right? They get caught up in this, but I'm a part of something. So people want to be part of a club. They want to be part of a group.
Mhm.
Awesome. Does it serve you? Are you energetic? Oh, you're not? You probably need to rethink what you're putting into your body because your cells are made up of what you eat, period.
Yeah. Meats for sure is demonized a lot. And sadly, like things become political and,
Yes.
we're just trying to talk about health and that's sort of where things, like you said, maybe like this sort of team, the tribal thought process comes and this side, the meat eaters and the vegans, right? They kind of go
Yeah.
back and forth because it's more of a tribal thing. How do you think the peptide therapy will stacks up against conventional treatments? Like in the sense of, do you see this as a replacement or maybe a complement to traditional medicine?
I see it as both.
Hmm.
I'm not at all against Western medicine. I'm against not understanding what's going on with the patient in front of you and not trying to address the root cause. Medicine has a place and serves a purpose, and I don't think it's all bad. Are there lots of scary medications out there? Yeah, there are. And again, I mean, there's not enough liability on the drug companies, and that's that's a whole different conversation. But I think many things, if someone is in an acute situation, you can use both medication and peptides and supplements and other modalities to help them heal. And I think that generally medications should be a means to an end, not like here's a lifetime prescription.
Hmm. Yeah, so they can work with them, but obviously people are put on medications for a reason, so it doesn't mean they don't have their place.
For sure. 100%. I mean, they're life-saving in some cases. That's important.
Of course, you've been talking about how not every treatment is going to be a blanket treatment for everyone, but obviously you have, a peptide toolkit, so to speak, right? Do you have any like go-to peptides that you prefer that, okay, most people are okay with this, and sort of like maybe like what superpowers they bring to the table?
So if we're talking about regular peptides, it can be a little tricky to get your hands on. As of last year, I'm seeing more companies putting oral supplements together, and for like BPC 157, BPC stands for body protective compound, right? We produce BPC in our gut. It can be amazing for people when they're healing from an injury, when they have massive gut issues. Some of these peptides are they're phenomenal. They're absolutely phenomenal in what they'll do. In terms of the peptide bioregulators, I mean, I've seen some really cool stuff that my doors have been blown off by it. So, when you see those things, you're like, it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, I guess when you get clients that come in, you're sort of, trying to take what they're going through, what their ailments might be, and sort of matching them with what's going to work for them. When you sort of sit down with someone, obviously it's not one size fits all. What factors come into play? Is it age? Is genetics a part of it?
So genetics can be a part, right? I mean, if someone's never had a genetic test and they don't want to pay for one, there are certain labs that give you indicators about certain genetics, right? Like methylation, for example. Sometimes you're like, I'm thinking that person probably has a methylation issue. Don't have a test to prove it, but this is typically what I would see in somebody that has a methylation issue. It's not one size fits all. And that's where like having a conversation with the person and looking at their test is really interesting, because you can go, oh, your heart's aging faster than the rest of you. We want to address that. Oh, wait, you have like everyone in your family has had a heart attack. And, I don't take that kind of stuff as like, you're going to have a heart attack, because what I find is lifestyles run in families. And, I'm sure we've all seen the
Sure.
meme, like obesity doesn't run in your family. Nobody runs in your family,
Yeah,
that kind
exactly.
of stuff. But we laugh, but it's kind of the truth. I mean, people will say, oh my gosh, everyone in my family has high cholesterol and heart disease. And then you start talking to them about their diet and you're like, well, this is more related to how you're eating. How did you grow up eating? Oh, the same way, which means your parents probably eat that way. Someone probably taught them to eat that way. So I think, looking at a little bit bigger picture helps you understand why people are where they are.
Yeah. What sort of breakthroughs do you see on the horizon, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think as they gain traction here in the U.S., you're going to see more and more success stories with them of people that are like, oh, I was told my whatever, the organ was going to fail, and it's actually improving. Like all my function tests and my labs are looking better and better. I think we're going to start seeing that. And I think 2020 was a year that people that wanted to see more saw it. Let's put it that way, right? That, wait a second, I do have responsibility in my own health. No one's coming to save me. I either care about what I eat, care about my sleep, care about prioritizing movement, right? Or I just decline and have a much higher probability of getting any gnarly virus that comes along and doing really poorly when I get it because I'm metabolically unhealthy, right? I think there was a group of people that they were kind of awakened to the fact that they had more control than maybe they initially thought over their own health. And I can't tell you how many people have come to see me and they're like, I started some really bad habits in 2020, eating a lot of junk and drinking a lot of alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sodas,
Um,
alcohol. Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, it was stressful. I think it was, stressful for a lot of people. And also there was that piece of people feeling alone or
Hmm.
alienated, didn't live with someone, or, was really restricted. Like some of the states were very restrictive. And so, there were lots of things at play.
Absolutely, and some people don't even realize like being around other people is good for you. Just enjoying each other and talking
Community.
and right, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. That they were sort of deprived of, or they just felt like, hey, this is the right thing for me.
Mhm.
But again, we're starting to see the repercussions of the health side that came out of that. It's interesting to see like the younger people, because you mentioned in the beginning about the diseases kicking in earlier, these chronic
Mhm.
illnesses. You're seeing people in their 30s and 40s, and you wonder how much of a play that's going to be 2020 as we get 10 years later, 5, 10 years later. We're almost there.
It's all so controllable. It's all so fixable. But you see people kind of just in this daze of like, oh, there's nothing we can do. They're sick. Our family gets diabetes. No, your family doesn't. It's genetic. We all get diabetes. No, you all eat poorly, and you can fix that, right? You can move your body. You can control what you put in your mouth. And when people say like, well, we didn't know. The one thing I will say is we're at a time when you have access to so much information. If you're interested and you want to know, it's there for the taking.
Yeah, it's not hard to find the information. Most
No.
people have cell phones and internet, right? In the
Yeah.
sense of, right, in the US. I always hear the thing, well, my kid likes the food. They like the cheesy puffs, or right? Yeah, what do you mean?
Well,
Like,
they're highly palatable. Of
yeah,
course they do.
yeah,
And you
they're
get
addictive.
used to what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've literally had people tell me that, well, they won't eat it. And I'm like, well, I can tell you that you're the parent. And if you choose to stop giving them that, they will eat. They will get hungry and eat. And they're going to be okay if they miss a meal or two,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Because I think what parents have to understand is they're laying the foundation for that child's future health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, biohacking in general, just optimization. A lot of biohackers use that term.
Mhm.
How do you think, like, this peptides, the therapies can sort of synergize with other whole therapy, intermittent fasting? Like, how do they come into play? Do they work together?
They do. I mean, I will tell you, I spent several years doing a lot of biohacking stuff, and I still have some things I do. But I truly believe if you don't have the foundational things in place, the other things don't matter. And I think people get the cart before the horse there. And they're like, jumping in head first, like cold plunging. And I'm, in front of the red light and I'm holding my breath for 20 minutes and, you know,
Yep.
all the things. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't go to sleep till 1 o'clock in the morning because you're on your phone. So maybe fix that
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I think if we can really like create this culture around like the foundational things, prioritize your sleep. If you don't sleep well, you don't heal and repair. Maximize your nutrition, manage your stress, move your body, get sunlight, like just basic human needs. If we get those things right or better, 80/20, right? You're going to see such a upswing in your health. And then if you want to add some of these cool things, great. But if you don't have a strong foundation, it's all very superficial in my opinion.
Would those be the lifestyle factors that you think maybe are the most effective making any peptide therapy work? But in general, like the sleep and the diet and the exercise, would you say that those are the most crucial lifestyle factors?
I think they are. I think sunlight is essential to human health. I think that mitigating stress where you can, right? We can't get rid of all the stress in our life, but there are factors we can control. Like if have a person that you're always around and you feel very stressed out around them, manage that. Boundaries. If a relationship's really unhealthy, maybe it's time to say goodbye. Like those are things I try to help people work on because our health is affected by so many different things, right? We're complex creatures, and there's a lot of things at play. Emotions can make us sick. Physical things we encounter can make us sick. If we learn to put stops in place for things that have a big impact on our health, we tend to see, again, that upshift in our, in our overall well-being. Some people are more affected by emotional things. Some people aren't. Some people are like, I can handle that. They're more resilient to it. Where, there might be a person that like work stress just totally annihilates them. It's finding ways to manage those things that you go, this is impacting my health. How can I manage it?
Yeah, I think that people are not paying attention enough. Like you said, the sunlight is so crucial that people are just not getting enough of, even now, right? Because their working daylight savings kicks in. If you have kids, you're not getting up in the morning because you're getting them ready. You're getting lunches, whatever you might be doing. You're off to work, and then you're in an office. You come out, it's dark, so maybe you're getting your sunlight on the weekend for long durations. But all those things are certainly, come into play. What about like going the other direction? The pitfalls potentially of any peptide use. What are the negatives for people, if any?
Depending on what you're looking at using, would just be cost, essentially. They're pretty easy to take. They're pretty easy to use. It's not that complicated. You can work with somebody that knows, that understands them, that can help. That's one of the things I do. Like I put a 12-month protocol together for people like, okay, you want to feel better? You want to age better? You want to hang out and play with your grandkids? Let's repair those repair systems. Knowing your pitfalls. Like if you're a person that struggles with consistency, how can we find ways to help you be consistent, right? Whether that's with taking your supplements or getting up and exercising or whatever that looks like, right? Because I really think that's where the magic is what we do consistently is what matters.
Consistency is hard for people. Like kids, jobs, you're juggling a lot of stuff, and it's hard to kind of stay. Like we mentioned the diets in the beginning, people try to get on diets. It's the same kind of mentality. You did mention, some people that you've worked with and certain organs that have been turned into, a better situation than the person had before. Are there any sort of like success stories that might showcase like the potential of this therapy for people listening?
When I first discovered the peptide bioregulators, and I had been studying them and reading about them, I was really excited. Had a lady come see me that had chronic lymphatic lymphoma, and she had been hospitalized about 6 months prior, and there was a medication she was given in the hospital. I'm not sure. She was not sure what it was, but something damaged her kidneys. And now she has a nephrologist, and she had went to her nephrologist and said, hey, is there anything I can do to help repair my kidneys? He said, no, I'm just going to see you every 6 months, make sure your disease isn't progressing. So when she came to see me, she said, do you think there's anything we can do to help repair my kidneys? And I said, I do, definitely. How much and how quick? I can't tell you that, but I really, truly believe these things will help. I started her on the peptide bioregulators. She had been on them for 15 days when her nephrologist ordered updated labs. She called me the day she got the results, and she was like in tears. She was so happy. She's like, every single one of my kidney markers has improved. And I was literally blown away. Like if somebody was like telling me to place a bet on how fast they would work, I would not have said 15 days. But yet there we were. And she went to see her doctor, and he was, she's like, okay, you told me nothing could make them better. Explain this. And he's like, I can't explain it. I don't have any drugs that'll do that. That's what she said.
That's the truth. Yeah.
She has continued to improve, and it's stuff like that's so cool, right? Because you take somebody that's already got this disease process happening in their body, and then you add another layer to it, another layer of complexity, and just one more thing for them to deal with. And it's disheartening to the person. So when you see things like that getting better and quickly, and if I gave you the history on this person, not someone that you would look at and go, this is an ideal patient. I mean, lots of lifestyle factors and things she was doing that would not help her case. And yet there we were. So I think that kind of stuff is just exciting. It just shows the power of when your body has the right tools, what it's capable of.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier FDA hurdles that this part of the industry, what do you think that it still needs to overcome to get it to be to where it's just, a regular, it's just everyone it uses the therapy if they want to. It's not sort of stigmatized.
I mean, I just think, the lobbying with the drug companies, the amount of control they have because of the money is really what it boils down to.
Always financial, right?
That's my best thing.
Yeah. 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 No, that's a big hurdle, right? When you're going against those companies, right?
Yeah. And I think if you talk to a lot of my friends, in functional medicine, I mean, they would say the same thing. It's frustrating. I'm very, very hopeful that we're going to see changes there because, again, people should have the right to make their own decisions, right? Informed consent about things. I feel like that's important. I feel like that's part of our freedom. I feel like medical freedom is a big part of our freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most people would agree. It's their body, right? They want to know all the options and make the one that they feel is best.
And do what's best for you. Like I say that to people so often. They're like, what should I do? For example, if they're trying to decide if they want to do conventional treatment and alternative treatment. And I'm like, I believe you should do what resonates with you, what feels right to you. Again, I believe our body has an innate intelligence. And if something just feels right to you, then trust that instinct. And you don't have to worry about what other people think. It's your body. You have to deal with the long-term ramifications of your choices. So do what you feel is the right thing. And if that's both, if it's one or the other, it's your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You only get one.
Exactly.
How about like someone who's listening? I love what she's saying. Like, I'm interested in starting this. What's the number one piece of advice you could give to someone to start this journey?
Like for me, I do an application. Like if I'm going to work with someone and do the protocol with them, I want to know that they're engaged, that they're going to do the work. I mean, occasionally I'll get someone that's sort of has the expectation, like I'll compare it to, out exercising a bad diet. It's never going to happen. I mean, maybe when you're 20, probably not when you're 50. And so, making sure that somebody's on the same page and then working with them and developing a plan that maximizes strengthening their body in the places where it most needs it.
As we wrap up, like, what's the key takeaway about peptide therapy that you want listeners to remember?
I think that they have so much potential to help heal things in the body. That would be my number one thing is they have a really broad amount of potential. Some of the things that I've seen them do have been really significant and I'm kind of in awe.
Likewise. Like, how about for people listening that want to learn more about your work and the services you provide? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably my website. You can book an appointment right through my website, whether it's a consult or a discovery call. Just, hey, I want to ask a few questions. Make sure, I like you. Your voice sounds okay. Whatever it might be.
Yeah, of course.
You can go through my website and that I know you'll have the link in the show notes.
Yep.
It's avitabyDrV.com. They can also find me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, and my handle there is Kimberly Verbeke Wellness.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes, of course.
Awesome. Yeah. I love helping people again. When you start out kind of that into life, it's really my goal is always to help people age well, whatever the reason they come see me for. It's like I want them to have a high quality of life.
So thank you today for the time to explain all this. I was curious, I wanted to dive more into it. So for sharing this with the listeners and for your time today, thank you so much. And it was great talking with you.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation.